Hello, welcome to my dev commentary on the game Calcesa Besieged. Um, I'm going to go ahead and touch on level design aspects, uh, some of the collision edits that we needed to do, um, some fixes, and some other things, and then a little bit on sound that we did. So the first thing I'm going to touch on is this is the tutorial level. Andrew and I developed this level with the intent to teach the player on the um, mechanics of the game. So we start down here in this left-hand corner. We've got a sign that lets the player know that the control key is crouch. So we made an area where the player has to crouch through. And then here, this lets the player know that you can either press W or space to jump. So then we have this area that he has to jump up onto, and this is where one of the first edits is for collision. Is right here, here, and here. These little corner pieces is was a problem that we had with collision. I'll touch on that here in a sec. Um, but player jumps up here, they move across, they have a little notification that says that they need to collect scraps. So we have the scraps and the bolt. Um, so then they jump up to here. So this is to get them used to the little bit of jumping that's in this game. It's not too much of a platformer, but in the sense that we need to be able to jump up to the next heights. Um, these are here to kind of teach them those kinds of jumps. Here we have the forge, which is where the player then builds their first weapon, moves across here, fights their first enemy, and it'll drop an item, whether it be a heart, a bolt, or some scrap, and then they move on to the next area. So back to the collision, right here we had a problem where the first problem was that the collision box itself was a square instead of that triangle. So you got the effect of the player floating above the block if they went, too far to the right or the left, depending on the orientation of this box. So we made it so that it was a triangle, which this fixed the initial problem, but it created another problem in the sense that when you walked across this plane now, it was lower than the walkable angle for the character, so they would slide off. And so right here um, became an unwanted uh, skill jump. So um, right here, you would usually land somewhere right here, and you would slide right on off, and you'd have to jump back up over to here. So we fixed that by changing the walkable angle to, I believe, 50 degrees on the player. So that negates this angle, and we get a nice little um, animation where we can actually walk across this now, and it doesn't cause as much headache for the players. Um, and then as you can see, there's a buffer space out here, about 4 blocks. Um, that is so that when the player is in game, they can't see past these areas and see black on the outside. So that was put in to keep the authenticity of the game. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next area, which would be steel hold. This is the main hub for the player. This is where the player would come back. We've got the same buffer around here as the last level. We've got our mayor of the town standing here. This gives a little bit of story. These two characters. This tells you where you are, and he gives you some dialogue on what's going on. Um, so we've got these platforms to separate the upper and the lower parts of Steelhold. So we'll have eventually the player would have 10 buildings here. Then we have these platforms to go from the lower portion of Steelhold up to the higher portion. And again, we have these boxes here that had the same problem that we fixed, the same as the last ones. So then now we go to Steelhold Station. Once all the enemies are defeated, you are able to move on to this section. This is Steelhold Station. Um, Again, the buffer around the screen. We have up here was supposed to be an area where we could, if we wanted to, add a little Easter egg, a little treasure chest of sorts. Um, it was not implemented, but there was another platform that allowed the player to jump up to there. Um, since we decided not to do that, we just took out the one platform, so it's no longer reachable. And then this is the Steelhold train station. So we'll go there next. This is inside the train station. So again, we have that buffer space right here, so they can't see. Um, and then we have the train. So once you beat the enemies in Steelhold, the mayor gives you a train ticket, and you're able to get on the train here. So then, once you get on the train, here are the train cars. So we went with keeping the carpets to an order of the train cars. This is blue and red. So all the odd ones have blue carpeting, and all the even ones have red. That wasn't done for any reason other than to keep ones that we were working on straight so that we knew, hey, all these odd ones will have it. That way we kind of had a little bit of a flow, a little bit of a pattern to it. So player fights through the train, the enemies, and here's the uh, what would be the mini boss, like the first little uh, big encounter that you would fight on the train. We made it so it's this red, so the player knows this is a different type of car, as well as being taller. And these are platforms that allow the player to dodge the enemy that would be in here. Um, then that pattern continues across here, and this would be where the main boss would be. So, as with the mini boss area, you've got the red carpet, jumpable platforms, and it's taller than the other cars. So that is the level design. Um, we also made some sounds, we being me and Andrew, made some sounds using this website. It's called Chiptone. They have generators here that kind of point you in the right direction of what you're wanting, and then you can adjust them. The wavelengths, frequencies, amplitudes. You can turn on different effects across each of them, or you could just do a random set. And so we created a few. I'll go ahead and show a couple of them. But this was a concept sound for if the player was damaged or if an enemy was damaged. So as you can see, it's like a little staticky kind of um, damage kind of sound. This was a enemy death. It's kind of like an explosion. And then there were some other ones that we created as well. Ones that are in the game. There's one that I know of currently. I think there might be one other one. Was when Andrew and I were messing around in FL Studio. We made a couple of sounds, and the one that I know of that is in the game is the jump sound. So if we jump, you can hear a small little oof almost sound, and that was one of the sounds that we created in FL Studios while we were messing around, and the team liked it, so they put it in as the jump sound. But that's the end of my commentary. I hope you enjoy, and I hope that you enjoy Calcesa Besieged.